So in this video, we're going to talk briefly about the detailed surveys that you might want to run for commuting and home working data to get a more accurate understanding of your impacts in these areas. So perhaps you've already done some work and you've identified that it is a material impact, and you want to have that more accurate understanding, more detailed understanding. So this could be a standalone survey that you run within your business. It could be looking at one or both of these, commuting and or home working, or it could be linked into your normal annual staff survey processes. And we do find sometimes that that's better. Keep it nice and simple and part of an annual process, but that depends on sort of where you are in timings for that and needing to collect your footprint data. Probably our top tip around this is be careful, though, what you ask for. In the past, we have seen companies ask for a lot of data, and what you get back is an awful lot of information, and it can be really hard to process that, and it doesn't necessarily tell you anything else. So really think about why you want this data and why you're asking for specific questions. What are you going to do with it? What's it going to tell you? As I've said, this is quite a complex piece. We can provide staff surveying services for you. So if that is of interest, then please do get in touch with us and we can talk about your exact requirements and costs for that. So commuting surveys tend to be relatively simple. So we want to know how often people are commuting. We want to know how far they're travelling. We want to look at the modes of travel that they might be using. But in this case, and it's more detailed, we might be looking at all the different modes of travel. So rather than just looking at their main piece, travel by train, we might look at where you've done a 5 miles from home to the station, then you've done a rail journey of 20 miles, and then you've done 2 miles on the underground, something like that. So you can get a much more accurate data set. You've also got that opportunity to get more accurate fuel data if it's a car or a motorbike or something like that. So we can understand whether it's petrol or diesel or electric or something else. It also gives us the opportunity to understand a bit more about lift sharing. So are staff sharing lifts and making sure that we're not overcounting perhaps our impacts. Those sources obviously for this one is going to be staff surveys, and we've got some key people there you'll need to talk to. I think a really nice thing to try and include in these sorts of survey those is also asking employees what you can do to help them. So what questions do they have around commuting? What's stopping them commuting in certain ways or forcing them to commute by a certain route? So always opportunities to ask those sort of questions and use it as an engagement piece as well. Then in terms of home working, so this is where the devil can really get into the detail. So in the previous video, we talked about a very simple potential survey when you're literally just looking to understand how many days people are working at home, and you can multiply that up, the number of hours. In a more complex survey, you might be asking some of these options. So as well as days working at home, actually the number of hours they work from home. It may not always be 8 hours a day. It might be something different because of people's working patterns. We might get into detail around the number of monitors they're using in addition to a laptop or a desktop, the type of lighting they have in their offices and how often those lights are on, because that might vary by time of year or other factors. We might explore the type of heating fuel that they're using. So is that gas or electricity or oil or biomass, as well as how often, how many months a year they run the heating for. Another consideration is whether other people are going to be in the house anyway, because it may be that there's no additional heating use because other family members may have been there anyway and the house would have been heated. So you need to think about that potentially in a detailed survey. You could even go as far as asking for the time spent on video calls. So lots and lots of information, but as you can imagine, if you ask a few hundred people all of these questions, you get a lot of variables back. So do think about what you're going to use it for before you ask for all that level of detail. And I think that my best advice here would be if you want to run a detailed survey, then do get in touch with us.